I found my wife's affair with our family lawyer, who's now claiming our $500, $0 inheritance as his severance, and she's mysteriously disappeared, leaving me spiraling over the betrayal and looming lawsuit. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy to find out my wife was cheating on me, especially not in such a brutal way. It all started with what seemed like a normal day, nothing out of the ordinary really. My name's Mike, by the way. I've been married to Lisa for about 8 years now. We had our ups and downs, sure, but I genuinely thought we had a solid life together. We had a big house, good jobs, a little kid we loved more than anything. But then, out of nowhere, everything spiraled into chaos. It all began with small things. Lisa started acting a little distant, snapping at me over tiny stuff, canceling plans last minute. I brushed it off at first. Maybe she was just stressed at work or tired. But then I noticed her phone was more guarded than ever, hiding her texts and messages like she was afraid I'd see something. She'd suddenly be busy during the evenings, claiming she was working late or running errands. I didn't think much of it at first, but I started feeling like I was losing her. One night, I came home early from work because I wasn't feeling well. I decided to surprise her, figuring we could have a nice dinner or something. When I got inside, I noticed her phone sitting on the counter unlocked. I usually wouldn't snoop, but something about how she was acting suspicious made me curious. I glanced at her messages, just a quick peek, and what I saw made my stomach drop. There were texts pouring in from a number I didn't recognize, flirty, intimate, downright provocative. Nothing explicit, but enough to tell me she was clearly involved with someone else. I felt sick. My mind raced. I looked at the messages, trying to piece together what was happening. Then I saw her name, Mark, the family lawyer. I had a sinking feeling almost immediately. I knew Lisa had been working with him on some legal stuff about our inheritance, but I never imagined they'd be more than just professional. That moment, I realized Lisa had been lying to my face for months, maybe longer. She'd been sneaking around, making excuses, hiding her phone, and now I knew the truth. She was having an affair with Mark, and from what I could tell, it had been going on for a while. I didn't confront her right then. Instead, I quietly backed out of the room, my mind spinning. I needed to process what I'd just seen. I felt a mix of shock, rage, and heartbreak all at once. I had trusted her with everything, my life, my money, my heart, and she'd been sneaking around with our lawyer. It was like some sick betrayal movie, but I was living it. The next morning, I decided I couldn't keep this to myself. I needed to talk to her, get some answers. When I confronted Lisa, she was defensive, of course. She spun some bullshit about how she didn't mean anything, that it was just a mistake, that Mark was just helping her with some legal stuff, that she loved me. But I could see right through her lies. She was bitchy, dismissive, and even tried to turn it around on me, saying I was paranoid or jealous. That's when I realized she didn't care about the damage she'd done. She was more interested in spinning her web of lies to protect herself. I was devastated. I felt like my entire world was crashing down around me. I'd always thought we had a good marriage, that we were in it together. Turns out she'd been cheating on me for who knows how long, and now she was gone, disappeared without a trace, leaving me to pick up the pieces. The betrayal hit hard. I kept asking myself how I missed the signs, how I let her get away with it. The anger simmered beneath the surface, but mostly I felt hollow. It was like I'd been punched in the gut and I couldn't breathe. All I could do now was figure out what to do next, but I knew one thing for sure. I was going to find out the truth, no matter what it took. After that initial shock wore off, I started digging into everything I could find. I couldn't just sit around and let her walk away like nothing had happened. My mind kept circling around the fact that she'd been lying to me, hiding her affair, and now she'd mysteriously vanished. It was like she evaporated into thin air, leaving me with a mess I didn't know how to clean up. I knew I had to find out what Mark, our lawyer, was up to. The guy had been handling our estate, $500,000 that was supposed to go into our family trust. When I looked into his recent activities, I found he'd suddenly claimed our inheritance as his severance after what I later learned was a supposed retirement. That's when the pieces started falling into place. Mark was trying to take our money and Lisa was helping him cover it up. The betrayal wasn't just emotional now, it was financial too. I decided I needed proof. I hired a private investigator, a guy I found online who had good reviews and seemed discreet. I told him to follow Lisa, see where she was going, who she was meeting. I also started digging into Mark's financial records, his recent transactions, anything that could tie him to my wife and her betrayal. It was a slow process, and every day that passed I felt more like I was losing my mind. The fact that Lisa had disappeared made me paranoid. Did she run away? Was she hiding? Or worse, was she planning to take the money and disappear forever? Meanwhile, I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal from my own family. I told my brother, Tom, what was happening. He was furious too, especially when I explained how Mark was trying to claim our inheritance. Tom's a lawyer himself, so he started digging into Mark's background, finding out he'd had a few shady deals in the past. That made me angrier. How had I trusted this guy with our legal affairs? How had Lisa let herself get involved with someone so clearly corrupt? One night, I decided I'd confront Lisa directly. I wanted answers, real, honest answers. I called her, but she didn't pick up. Instead, I left her a message, telling her I knew everything, that I was onto her, and that I wanted her to come home and talk. I wasn't going to beg her, but I needed to hear her side, if she even had one anymore. When she finally called back, her voice was cold, detached. She told me she was not coming back, that she was done with me, that I was just making things worse. She kept lying, insisting she loved me, that she was just trying to sort out some personal stuff, but her words felt hollow. I knew better. Every moment that passed, I felt more betrayed, more furious. I started to think about how to fight back. I couldn't let her and Mark get away with stealing our inheritance. I wasn't just hurt, I was furious. I had worked so hard for that money, and now it seemed like they were trying to take it all from me. I knew I had to be smart, legal, strategic, ruthless even. I couldn't just sit around and let them walk all over me. That's when I started planning my next move. I reached out to a different lawyer, someone who specialized in financial fraud and betrayal cases. I was determined to get to the bottom of this, to stop Mark from claiming what wasn't his, and to find out where Lisa had gone. I didn't trust her anymore, not one bit. The woman I loved, the woman I had trusted with everything, was now just a stranger hiding secrets and screwing around with my lawyer. It was like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I kept telling myself I'd get through it, that I'd find out the truth, but inside I was just angry and broken. I didn't know if I'd ever be able to trust again. I spent the next few days in a haze, trying to piece everything together. My mind kept circling back to the fact that Lisa was gone and Mark was claiming our inheritance as his severance. That phrase kept echoing in my head, severance. Like he was leaving his job and taking my money with him. It made my blood boil. I knew I had to act fast before they managed to drain everything, before Lisa disappeared for good or Mark found some legal loophole to shield himself. I reached out to the lawyer I hired, Lisa's cousin, actually, someone I found through a contact. This guy was sharp, honest, and he agreed to dig into Mark's financial history. Meanwhile, I started looking into the legal documents surrounding the inheritance. Turns out, Mark had filed some paperwork claiming he was entitled to a severance after supposedly retiring from his law practice. That's when I started to see the cracks. It was all a lie. The real story was that Mark had been heavily in debt, involved in shady deals, and saw the inheritance as his ticket out. And Lisa, she was just feeding him what he wanted, lying to me to keep him happy. One evening, I got a call from my pie. He'd been following Lisa for days, and what he told me made my stomach turn. She was meeting with Mark regularly, not just for legal advice but for something more. They'd been sneaking around, meeting in hotels, even at some secluded spots outside the city. My gut told me they were more than just lawyer and client, they were lovers. I couldn't believe it. I'd trusted her with everything, and now I found out she'd been cheating on me with our lawyer, our supposed family advisor. That was the moment I decided I'd had enough. I couldn't just sit around and hope things would blow over. I needed to confront her, or at least get some solid proof. I arranged to meet her in person under the guise of wanting to talk. I told her I knew everything, that I'd seen the messages, that I knew about Mark. Her reaction was everything I expected. She got defensive, angry, even bitchy. She said I was paranoid, that I was overreacting, that I was just jealous. She spun these stories about how Mark was just helping her with legal stuff, that she loved me, that she'd never do anything to hurt me. But her eyes told a different story, cold, guilty, and defiant. The confrontation was intense. I demanded to know where she was, why she disappeared, and what her real plans were. She snapped back with arrogance, telling me I was just a jealous husband who couldn't handle the truth. She said she was tired of my accusations, tired of the fight, and that she was leaving for good. Then she hit me with something that made my blood run cold. She claimed she was going to take the money, that she deserved it more than I did, and that she was done being under my thumb. That night I sat alone in the house trying to process everything. I felt betrayed beyond words. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted, had been lying to my face for months, and now she was gone. I was left with nothing but a hollow ache and a burning desire to take back what was mine. I had to get that inheritance, not just to save my future, but to punish her for what she'd done. I knew Mark was behind it all, trying to swindle me out of $500,000. I also knew Lisa's disappearance wasn't accidental. She was running, trying to escape the mess she helped create. The anger started to turn into a plan. I wasn't just going to let this slide. I was going to fight back legally, recover my money, and expose Mark for the fraud he was. More than that, I was determined to make Lisa pay for her betrayal, even if I had to do it from afar. I realized I wasn't just a wronged husband. I was a man who'd been played, and now I was going to make sure they both paid. The road ahead was going to be tough, but I was done being the victim. It was time to take control and settle the score. The days that followed were a whirlwind of legal consultations and late nights poring over documents. I knew I had to act fast if I wanted to reclaim what was rightfully mine and stop Mark from slipping away with our inheritance. The more I dug into Mark's financial history, the clearer it became that he was trying to pull a fast one, claiming the inheritance as his severance after supposedly retiring from his law practice. The guy was heavily in debt, had shady dealings, and was desperate enough to try to steal from his own client family. I hired a different lawyer, someone experienced in financial crimes and fraud. I gave him everything I had. The messages Lisa sent, the bank statements I'd managed to get hold of, the legal filings Mark had submitted. It was a lot to process, but I was determined. I also enlisted my private investigator again, asking him to keep tabs on Lisa. I needed to know where she was, what she was doing, and if she was planning to cut all ties. The thing that haunted me most was not just the betrayal, but the fact that she had disappeared without a word, leaving me with nothing but questions. One night, I got a call from the pie. He'd been following Lisa for a week now, and what he told me made my stomach turn. She was meeting Mark regularly, sometimes in secluded spots outside the city, other times in hotels. The more I heard, the more I realized they weren't just discussing legal matters, they were lovers. The thought made my blood boil. How could she do this to me? After all we'd been through, she was cheating on me with the very man I trusted to handle our legal affairs. I felt a mixture of rage and despair. It was like she'd betrayed me on every level, emotionally, financially, morally. I knew I had to confront her, or at least get her to come back and face what she'd done. I reached out, pretending to want to talk about our marriage, about fixing things. When she finally called back, her voice was cold, almost dismissive. She told me she was done, that she was leaving for good, and that I should stop bothering her. I pressed her for answers, asking where she was, what her plans were. She snapped at me, accusing me of being paranoid, jealous, and controlling. She insisted. She loved me, but I could see the truth in her eyes. She was lying. That night, I made up my mind. I wasn't just going to sit back and let her run away with my money. I was going to fight for it. I contacted my lawyer again, told him everything I knew, and asked him to start the legal process to freeze the inheritance. I also wanted to subpoena Mark's financial records if he was trying to claim our inheritance as severance. I needed proof that he was lying, that he was just another scammer trying to steal from us. Meanwhile, Lisa was still gone. No calls, no messages, no sign of her. I felt like I'd been punched again and again. How could she just vanish like that? I kept replaying everything. Her lies, her sneaking around, her cold attitude. It was like she was trying to erase the past. But I refused to let her. I was done being a victim. I was going to get to the bottom of this, even if it meant tearing everything apart. The more I researched, the more I realized how deep the rabbit hole went. Mark had been involved in similar scams before. The inheritance was just the latest target. I had to act fast before he managed to transfer the money or hide it somewhere. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about justice. I was determined to stop him from getting away with this, even if I had to go to court, fight in legal battles, or expose his shady deals publicly. I knew Lisa's disappearance was part of her plan she was running because she knew everything was about to come crashing down on her. I wasn't sure where she was or if I'd ever see her again, but I was ready to fight for what was mine. The betrayal had cut deep, but I was going to make sure I came out on top. The legal battle moved quickly once my lawyer filed the paperwork to freeze the inheritance and subpoena Mark's financial records. I could tell Mark was sweating. His attempts to claim the money as severance were clearly bogus. The more my lawyer dug, the more evidence we uncovered of Mark's shady dealings and his history of financial scams. It was like peeling back layers of a corrupt onion. Every day, I felt a little more vindicated, but that didn't erase the pain of Lisa's betrayal. Meanwhile, I kept trying to reach Lisa. I left messages, sent texts, even called her family members, but she was completely unresponsive. I was starting to think she'd really just disappeared. Maybe she'd run off with Mark or was hiding somewhere, waiting for the dust to settle. Whatever her plan was, I knew I had to stay one step ahead. I didn't trust Mark or Lisa anymore. They'd lied, cheated, and betrayed everything I held dear. I had to be smart, get the evidence, protect my rights, and prepare for whatever was coming. One evening, I got a tip from my pie. Lisa had been spotted in a small town about 2 hours from here, staying at some rundown motel. I couldn't believe it. After everything, she was just hiding out, probably thinking she'd escaped the chaos. I decided I needed to see her face to face, even if it was just to get some closure or find out what her real plans were. I booked a last-minute trip, told her I wanted to talk, and drove out there. When I arrived, I found her sitting alone in that dingy motel room. She looked worn out, her hair was unkempt, her eyes tired. She didn't even try to deny anything. Instead, she looked at me with a mixture of contempt and fear. I asked her what she was doing, why she disappeared, and what her game was. She told me she was done, that she didn't want to be with me anymore, and that she was planning to leave the country with Mark's help. She said she'd been so tired of the lies, the stress, the constant fighting that she just wanted to escape. I was furious. Not just because she was cheating, but because she was planning to run away with our money, with Mark's help. I told her she wasn't getting away with it, that I was going to fight for what was mine, that I wasn't going to let her destroy everything we built. She scoffed, told me I was too late, that she'd already made her decision. I could see she'd already made her escape plan. She was ready to disappear forever, leaving me with nothing but heartbreak and betrayal. That night I drove back home feeling a mix of rage and helplessness. Lisa had turned into a ghost, a shadow of the woman I once loved. I knew I had to act fast before she left for good. I contacted my lawyer again, told him about her location, and pushed to get a court order to prevent her from leaving the country or transferring any assets. I also started preparing for the inevitable legal fight to recover the inheritance, to expose Mark's fraud, and to hold Lisa accountable. Throughout this chaos, one thing became painfully clear: trust was shattered. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I'd married, was gone. She'd betrayed me in the worst way possible, and now she was trying to run away from her sins. I wasn't about to let her. I was going to fight for what was mine: my money, my reputation, my dignity. This was no longer just about money or betrayal. It was about standing up and reclaiming what was rightfully mine. I knew the road ahead would be tough, but I was prepared to see it through. I'd been betrayed once, but I wasn't going to let them destroy me, not without a fight. The court date finally arrived and I was ready. All the evidence I had gathered, messages, bank statements, the legal filings, the testimony from my private investigator, painted a clear picture. Mark was a fraud, trying to claim our inheritance through deceit, and Lisa was complicit, helping him cover it up. When the judge reviewed everything, it was obvious they'd been trying to pull a fast one. The court issued an order to freeze the inheritance, preventing Mark from transferring any funds, and started proceedings to recover what they could. It felt like a small victory, but the sting of betrayal still lingered. As for Lisa, I never saw her again after that trip to her hideout. She disappeared, probably realizing she was about to face serious legal consequences. I hope she's somewhere, reflecting on what she did, but honestly I don't care much anymore. The damage was done, and I had to pick up the pieces. The inheritance was protected, and I was finally getting some of the closure I desperately needed. The aftermath left me but stronger. I had trusted her with everything, my love, my money, my future, and she'd shattered that trust in the worst way possible. But I also learned something invaluable. Sometimes, betrayal cuts so deep that you have no choice but to fight back. I realized I'd been naive, but I also understood that I wasn't going to let anyone steal what I worked so hard for. The legal fight was draining, emotionally and financially, but I refused to be a victim anymore. Looking back, I see now that I should have seen the signs earlier. Her distant behavior, secretive phone habits, her quick temper. But even if I had, I don't think I could have prepared for the shock of discovering she was cheating with our lawyer and planning her escape. That betrayal rewired me. It's hard to trust again after something like this, but I've learned to be more cautious, more guarded. I've also realized that sometimes revenge isn't about getting even. It's about reclaiming your dignity and making sure justice is served. I don't regret standing up for myself. I don't regret fighting for what was mine. And I definitely don't regret exposing the truth, no matter how painful it was. For anyone out there going through something similar, trust your instincts, but don't be afraid to fight for what's right. Sometimes the only way to heal is to confront what's broken, no matter how ugly it gets. That's what I did, and I can finally start to move forward, knowing I stood my ground.